Hello, this is Suzanne Joachim, and this tutorial is about how to find scholarly resources for your paper. This tutorial was suggested by one of your colleagues, and if you have other ideas for tutorials that may be helpful, please let me know and I'd be happy to record those. So when you're looking for resources for an academic paper, the best place to start is always the college library. And there's a lot of wonderful resources here. One of them you can see right here, Ask a Librarian. We have 24/7 support, so you can actually chat with a librarian if you get stuck. That's super helpful. Down here under the Learn tab, there's all sorts of really wonderful resources that you can look at. One of the particularly helpful ones is this Tip Sheets and Guides. So if you click on that, what you'll see is a whole bunch of guides and tip sheets on a variety of topics that you'll find helpful when writing papers. One of the particularly helpful ones is this right here, Finding Journal Articles. This is what we're going to be discussing here in the tutorial, but this has some nice information that you can use for reference as well. And so you can see this is that guide, and it shows you where to search for things and how to search. It has some tips on how to have effective searching, so really quite helpful. Another helpful tip sheet right here is the Scholarly Journal versus Internet Resources. And what that does is it discusses the difference between scholarly journals and other types of resources. Now I'm asking for scholarly material, and that can be a little bit confusing. I'm going to show you an easy way to identify scholarly material in a minute. But what this tip sheet does is it tells you all about how do you know if something is scholarly. It also talks about popular magazines, which is not appropriate for a research paper, web resources, which may or may not be, depending on the topic of your paper and the resource itself. So for example here, the CDC, if you're writing on infectious disease, that's particularly helpful. But in general, you want to stay away from web resources. And this also discusses the research databases for the library, and that's really what we're going to focus on. One tip sheet that I do want to talk about as well, one resource that I want to talk about as well here is under the tip sheets. It has instructional videos. And these are nice little tutorials that the librarians have made to show you things like how do you search the library website, how do you use the searches in the databases. And this is what I'm going to be talking about today, but you can see here there are a variety of tutorials made by the librarians as well, so you may want to look at those also. Alright, so let's jump right in and look for our resources. So again, back to the library homepage, you can see here the very first link is databases, and you want to click that. And you can see there's a whole bunch of databases, and if you're interested in what all of these do, you can ask a librarian, and there's also tip sheets that tell you exactly what all these are useful for. And basically it comes down to different academic disciplines have different databases that are more or less useful. My personal favorite here is Academic Search Premier, so it's the first one. It's real easy to remember. Just click on the first one and you'll find some really wonderful resources for a variety of topics, including science. So if you click on that, you'll get to this page. Now, if you're off campus, it'll ask you to log in before you get here, and you'll just use your standard Butte email with your password, and that'll let you in here. Alright, so let's take a look at all the options on this page, because the key to a really good search is selecting the right boxes and typing in good search queries. So let's say your topic is about autism. Alright. If I just type this in and click search, and this may take a minute depending on how strong your internet connection is. There it is. So you can see here that gives me 35,000 results. That's just way too many. And the problem is going to be, even if I pick the first 5, I'm probably not going to pick the best 5. And maybe the ones I really want are 20,000 in, and I'm just never going to find them. So that's where all of these checkboxes really come in helpful. So the first one you want to check is full text, because I don't want any results that are just going to give me the abstract and I can't read the paper. So I only want those where I can read the whole paper. And you can see that already cuts those in half. And then here's the real important one, scholarly. So if you remember I said it's a little hard to know what is and isn't scholarly, well, you actually don't have to know if you use the library databases. So you just click this box, and that tells the database to only return scholarly results. And you can see here we've cut it down by just a little bit more. Now, one other limiter that's particularly helpful is this publication date. This goes all the way back to 1960. And for a scientific paper, a lot has changed since the 60s, so I probably want something much more recent. So let's say 10 years. Okay, so the past 10 years, that's what I want to see. And this should update. There it goes. Sometimes if you click in the box and hit enter, it'll trigger an update. All right, so now we're down to 8,000, almost 9,000. So better, but I'm still not going to look through 9,000 databases or 9,000 articles. So here's where this part up here becomes helpful. So next to my search query, you can see I just left it open, which means this is going to look for that term anywhere in the article. So it might not be an article that's about autism, but it's talking about something completely different. And it just happens to use that word somewhere. So what I want is title is really great. So this means that that word is in the title of the article, which means it's probably about that topic. Subject terms are also helpful. So maybe the term isn't in the title, but the researchers have decided that, yes, this article is about all of these different topics. And they go through and list all the topics that the article is about. And so that's where this will search. So these are the two I use the most often. So let's do title for this one and click search again. And what you'll see is this is going to cut it down quite a bit. All right, so down to 5,000. Better, still a lot. So now this is where I want one more term. So autism is a huge, broad topic, and that's not going to be very helpful for writing a paper. So I want to limit it. So let's say I just want to look at environmental effects. All right, so autism and environmental factors. Oops, there, and we click search again. All right, 73. So do you see how much better that is? So I can look through 73 articles and find the one that I'm looking for. A couple of other little tricks, this and, right? So you have some options, and these are pretty self-explanatory, right? Or is particularly useful if there are two terms that are often used for the same thing. For example, global warming and climate change. So if I don't want to miss an article that discusses one versus the other, I might use or. I don't tend to use or very often. Not is particularly helpful if your term means two different things. So for example, if I'm writing a biology paper about bears and I don't want the football team, then I would use not. All right, so bears, not football. So those are some of the most useful search components, and you'll want to take a look through here and you can pick whatever topic you're interested in. Now you can also look through Google or any other search query. But if I do that, so if I type in autism and environmental factors, you can see just way more than I can look at. And I don't really know if these are reliable. They're probably not scholarly, and they're not really useful for research papers. A little bit better is Google has a particular search engine called Google Scholar, right? So right here. And this does look through journal articles, but it's not 100%. So if for some reason you can't get to the library databases, so let's take a look here. This is a good backup, but I wouldn't use this as my first place to search. So that is some of the best places to search for scholarly sources. Again, the place to start is the library, and please email me if you have any questions or if any of this is confusing. Good luck.